municipal code, section 8.12.030 states the city council may, from time to time, as provided by RCW 3521-120, award a contract or contracts for the collection of solid waste based upon competitive bids. In that sentence of the municipal code, there are at least two important provisions. One is that the word may, meaning permissively, is used, but also a qualifier that says as provided by RCW 3521-120, award contracts for solid waste based upon competitive bids. You'll recall that the City Council previously directed staff to negotiate the contract with Republic Services, or negotiate with the contractor with Republic Services to determine if a contract renewal or extension could be agreed upon, and if it could not, then the city may commission other proposals from other contractors. Over several months, city staff was able to successfully negotiate a contract with Public Services that actually resulted in a decrease in overall decrease in rates for the ratepayers. The question's been asked whether the city's required to seek competitive bids for awarding any contract, and in my opinion, the answer is no, for at least 3 reasons and possibly 4 reasons. The reference to the state law in our city code, to RCW 3521-120, it is a qualifier. In other words, the language in our code says as provided by this RCW. When you go to that RCW and you look at it, there's nothing in that section of state law that requires public bids for the award of solid waste contracts. There is a reference in that statute to another RCW, that's RCW 3521-152, that provides for an alternative process for awarding solid waste contracts, which is a bidding or competitive process. That process is alternative and it's permissive. It's not required of local entities to follow that process. And I think that's why our city code reads the way it does. It's permissive, and if you decide to follow that alternative process, then you can do it through competitive bids. Second reason is public bid laws simply do not apply to contracting for services. Solid waste hauling is a service. The public bid laws apply to contracting for things like construction of public works, construction of buildings, roads, bridges, etc. Solid waste handling is a service, and so the public bid laws simply do not apply to that type of activity. And there's even a section in the public, in the bid handbook that MRSC, Municipal Research and Services Center, puts out that confirms that solid waste contracts is not it's a type of service that isn't required to be bid. It doesn't apply to the bid laws. Third, I think a reasonable interpretation of the city's code does have the word may in it. It's permissive. There's nothing in the code that states that public bid for solid waste contracts is required, and if the council that adopted that code had intended for it to be mandatory and required, you'd probably see words in the code that say something like, this is the exclusive method, or it shall be done by competitive bidding. You don't find that language in our city code. And then finally, a fourth reason is there's a language in a different part of the state law that deals with pollution control facilities by cities, counties, and ports. There's a specific exemption for pollution control facilities, and that term is defined broadly in state law to include solid waste disposal. So at least an argument can be made that if you're working within the area of solid waste disposal, it's also in that statute specifically exempt from public bid law. So for all of those reasons, my opinion is that the council had the authority and the discretion to award the contract based upon the negotiated deal that was done from Public Services and was not required to go out to public bid. I apologize for the lengthy comment, but there's really no other way to explain it than to go through those 4 reasons. So if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Okay, so council, any questions? All right, thank you. Any other business? Now,